Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the next instalment of the Quantum Leap Business Show, going around the world, giving some insights, ideas and inspiration to small to medium-sized business owners out there that have struggled through COVID and the recent couple of years. It's indeed my pleasure today to have Roger Woodall from Diamond Sporting Group on the podcast today, going to be sharing some of his wisdom. So, Dodge, welcome to the show.
Nice one, mate. Thanks for having me.
Dodge, you've been best known in recent years for putting on the Bournemouth Sevens. You know, that started from just a concept in your head and it's just gone from strength to strength. Can you just share that journey with us?
Yeah, it's been a pretty crazy journey, if I'm honest with you. Just an idea in 2007, sitting on Bournemouth Beach. I've been throwing parties for 10 years previous. I had 12 nightclubs every week all around the UK. I ended up throwing 1,500 parties in nightclubs over that 10-year period. Saw a gap in the market where I would take the door money and they would take the bar money. And that worked really well. I then moved down to Bournemouth in sort of 05. I was living in London. I had 12 clubs every week, from Manchester to Birmingham to Leicester to London to Brighton, Bournemouth. The list went on. And that was in my 20s. And that was great being in your 20s. But when you're doing 30,000 miles a year and sleeping in hotels and what have you, it does take its toll. You wanted to just settle down a bit. So, listen, there was a great opportunity and a gap in the market that I identified and became a pioneer of putting on student nights all around the country. But then we moved on into my 30s and it was time to move to the next step. And the next step, what most nightclub promoters do, is look at owning a festival. Now, in 2008, there weren't very many festivals in the UK. There was probably 10 or 12. And the ones that you probably know are your Leeds, your Glastonbury's, your Isle of Wight festivals, your Reading Festival, your V Festival, etc. And obviously, due to my background of being a promoter and throwing parties and also very well connected in the sporting world, I sort of sat there one day with a mate of mine, Finchy, and sat on the beach and we thought about why don't we create a sport and music festival? And there was nothing around in the UK at the time. You had your Dubai Sevens and your Hong Kong Sevens. And the idea really was, I took that project on solo. And the idea was to create something unique in the UK market, which your sporting teams, your rugby, your netball, your hockey, dodgeball and volleyball could have their end of season tour. So along came the idea. Didn't have a clue what I was doing. It's very different from going from owning or putting on events in nightclubs with 2,000 people in one nightclub and you had 12 of them and you'd turn up to the nightclub as a promoter and you had your bar staff there already there, you had your security already there, your toilets were already there, your service was there, your lighting was there, your sound was there, your DJ box was there. To flip that over to hiring 67 acres of land, green land with nothing there, was a big shock. And to be honest with you, my naivety at the time probably done me good until you get to a stage where you're in, you find your venue in Bournemouth Sports Club next to Bournemouth Airport, 67 acres of land, and you pay your deposit. And then all of a sudden, you're entering this whole new world of lighting, showers, fencing, security, police, insurances, dealing with the airport. The list goes on and on and on. And in my mind, I was thinking in 2008, when we launched our first one, I was thinking it was going to cost me 100 grand. Little did I know. January 2008, it was a time where I'd come up with the idea and I was promoting hard. And then all of a sudden, January, my first festival was in May 2008, in 5 months' time. And all of a sudden, everyone wanted paying. So when you're there and all of a sudden, these bills are coming through. I was thinking I was going to pay everyone post-festival. So I'd get the money in, pay all your marquee companies, and your showers and your toilets and your fencing and everything else. You shell out afterwards, but obviously I had no track record of putting on a festival in a field. So it was a quick learning curve. I was in for 100 grand. The recession hit. That 100 grand went within about a week. I had to make a decision. Do I pull the event or do I go for it? And the options to me at the time was no banks loaning any money. There was no money anywhere at the time because everyone was shit scared because of this recession and everything that was happening in that time. So the only option was to turn to my wife and say, look, we can either walk away from the 100 grand and lose that 100 grand, or we go for it. And we decided the only option was to remortgage our house.
Wow.
Which anyone listening, please do not ever do. But we did decide to do that. There was a lot of sleepless nights. There was a lot of tears from my wife, you know, someone who's risk averse, working for JP Morgan at the time. And I'm a big risk taker. So I kind of it was in my stride at the time, but in the back of your mind that if people didn't turn up at your first festival, you could lose your house. That certainly makes you put the hours in.
Yep. But it's gone from strength to strength, Dodge. And what's been you almost been a sellout just about every year up till COVID, didn't you?
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. We're now coming into year 15. It's a 30,000 people sellout festival, 400 competing teams over rugby, netball, hockey, dodgeball, and volleyball. We have 12 festival arenas with big top dance tents, to 80s tents, to VIP, to VVIP tents, many celebrities, lots of TV crews. And it is a sport and music festival that's taken off and become world renowned in a very short space of time. So I'm happy we took the risk looking back, but it could have been a completely different story, mate.
So then everything was going brilliantly, and then COVID got in the road. What, that helped with all businesses, and what strategies, if any, did you employ? And can you share any outcomes of those strategies?
Yeah, sure. Well, there's no strategies whatsoever. It was, being an entrepreneur, you're curious, you innovate, you work ridiculous hours, you put everything on the line, you build teams, you become a leader, you learn how to market, you learn how to sell. And for me, I've kept business really simple over the years. But looking back there, the question you asked there was March 23rd, 2020, Boris went on BBC and said there's a pandemic coming and it's called COVID-19 and it's coming from China. Didn't have a clue what the word pandemic was, or COVID, or coronavirus. Straight away on Google, it looked serious. Our festival was 2 months later, completely sold out. And it was like, oh my God, we need to act quickly. So we acted super quickly and we moved the date to the August bank holiday weekend. And that gave us another 100 days breathing space. Where at the time, obviously, being an entrepreneur, you have an optimistic mindset. You have a mindset that it'll blow over, it'll be fine. And it's not easy just to move a festival. You know, you've got to speak to your sponsors. You've got to speak to all the people that bought tickets. You've got to speak to the venue. You've got to speak to the police, licensing, council. There's a lot of hoops to jump through. But because we're a nimble, family-owned company, we make decisions very quickly and we can act very quickly compared to the big corporates. So within 7 days, we'd communicated to everything to our customers. We'd done everything we possibly could by having as many meetings as possible with the correct people. And we moved the date to August bank holiday. Little did I know, we got to June and July. Got to July and we had a dangly carrot of hope. And then we had to make the decision that nothing was going to happen in the summer of 2020. So we had to cancel the festival, which was a shock. It was a kick in the plums. Financially, it was tough. But that was okay. Honestly, it was okay. And I love adversity. I love having my back against the wall. And it brought back that entrepreneurial spirit again of what it was like 14 years ago when I was launching the festival. You know, you ride the good times and you're always waiting. You're always waiting and looking in to see when the bad times are going to happen. But you've got to prepare your mind for stuff like that. Yep. And when you prepare your mind, it's not a shock. It is a shock a little bit, don't get me wrong, because when you've been working on a project and a business for 4,000 plus days, living and breathing it, how we can make it better, how we can tweak it, how we can improve it, how can we make the customer experience as best as we possibly can. And you know, not many businesses, in fact 2% of businesses get past year 10.
Yep.
So we knew we had something fantastic, and we have something fantastic, and we had to pivot. I hate that word, pivot.
Me too.
In my world, it was, we had to think of something new. What can we do now? So we had to move the festival to May 2021. So we're in hope. We got to January. And the beauty of our festival, we really realized how loyal our customers are. When you sell 30,000 tickets, any email or anything that pings up goes to my mobile phone, info@Bournemouth Sevens. And when we had to cancel, for 2 whole weeks, all I had was ping, 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 ping. I want a refund, I want a refund, a refund. And it happened so much. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare. Oh my God. And literally after day 14, it stopped. It literally stopped. So we added it all up, and 80% of people kept their ticket for the following year. Yep. 80. So we were like, oh my God, this is the most amazing news you could possibly have. And it made us realize how loyal our customers are, and were sticking by us. And I think a lot of that to do is that because we're approachable, we communicate really well with our customer base. We're very open. I'm on social media, on Instagram. People can get me at any time, and I reply to everyone. And it's kind of that family feel that we've created, and we have that family feel within our HQ, and that just gets trickled down from the top to everyone. Whether you're a cleaner, whether you're a caterer, whether you're a headline DJ, whatever you are, everyone gets treated the same. So it was May 2021 we were hoping for. We got to January, and it was like, oh my God, we're on. And then it was Boris and his merry men again said, I don't think it's going to happen this year. So we moved it to August, bank holiday this year, 2021. Again, a dangly carrot. It had to happen. It had to happen, because I didn't want to give everyone a refund back. You know, financially that could have really hurt.
Yep.
And July, I think it was July the 1st or 2nd or something like that, Boris said, no social distancing, no face masks, away you go. So we had 45 days to put on the festival. And there is lots of hurdles to jump over and hoops to jump through. And the reality is that we were on. But even the week before, I was still thinking, are we still on? Because he could have said a week before, sorry, you can't put your festival on.
Yep.
Now, here's a point. Here's a little point here, which not many people know. So I'll let you know this. During that time, in the summer period, a lot of festivals said, I'm not going to put our festival on this year because no one will insure us. So no insurance companies out there would insure a festival for cancellation due to COVID. But my mind was, I'm going for it. I'm going for it. And it was ballsy. I look back now, people think you were mad, but we went into that festival with zero insurance. That at any point, Boris could have pulled it due to another COVID or whatever might have happened, and we would have been in serious trouble, because when you were putting on a festival, you got outlay millions of pounds pre-event. But yeah, thank the Lord, we absolutely smashed it. It was great, loved it. It was our best festival to date. We had a lot of problems with staffing, security. The numbers weren't there due to Brexit, and everyone had gone back to the Eastern Europe, or didn't renew their SIA badges for security, or there was no bar staff around because there was no bar staff working any bars or nightclubs for the past year. So everyone was sort of filtered away, and we're just happy sitting on furlough. So we had to find 800 staff in 45 days. And that was a challenge in itself, but you know what, we got through it, and it was a wonderful event, and it was a massive relief as well.
Yeah, I can begin to imagine what that's like. I'm sure there's some people out there that have been in similar circumstances, but certainly not.
It makes us stronger. It made everyone stronger. It made us bond.
Yeah.
We're a family business. There was we got 7 full-time staff working on this all year round. And then you have 800 staff working every day of the weekend. So
yep.
It's a big operation, and we juggle a lot for a small team.
Yep.
We like to keep it that way because, everyone's accountable. Yeah.
So Dodge Diamond Events was the original, and now you've rebranded into the Diamond Sporting Group. There are people out there with rebranding. What was the thought behind why you needed to rebrand, and what's been the outcome?
Yeah, God, that's a while ago, that is. Diamond Sporting Group. We were Diamond Sports Events. We created Diamond Sporting Group to be the umbrella company. And it's the best move, if you have a few companies that sit under the umbrella company that complement each other, creating a group is probably one of the best things we ever did. So we created Diamond Sporting Group, and underneath that sat Diamond Sports Events, underneath that sat Bournemouth Sevens Festival, and underneath that sat Viper 10 Sportswear, which was a sportswear brand we launched in 2012. And we built that up over 6 years, and we got made an offer we couldn't refuse, and we sold it in 2018. That was an interesting journey in itself, that whole company, and becoming a worldwide international sportswear brand in a very short space of time, because we had a niche market of rugby and netball and the university market. Again, that's a whole new story, that one, if you want to go down that route. But
interesting, so that you got, I guess, protection in part of the group, and then it gives you the opportunity to sell off portions of it. So
absolutely. And when you own a group, for the outside world, you look a lot bigger than you actually are. And no one really speaks about that because people don't want to be as honest as that. But it really is to make you look bigger than you are. And also the benefits of being able to move money around into the different companies, share resource, share office space, share staff, move staff around. It's a very good option if you have a few companies.
Yep. Dodge, you've branched out now with your own show, The Eventful Entrepreneur. What was the idea behind that?
Going back to COVID and pandemic, March 2020, it was like the reality was you're not going to have a festival. So what are you going to do? And I kept myself private for 40 years. And everyone around me was saying, Dodge, why don't you go public and tell your story? Why don't you create a podcast, and why don't you go on Instagram? I was like, oh, really? Not really for me. I'm not sure. So anyway, I got interviewed and told my story for the first time. That went viral around the UK very quickly. And that's episode number 1 of my podcast. And that gave me the confidence really to create a podcast. And we've now been doing, we're just over a year now of podcasting. We release an episode every week on a Wednesday. Interviewed some of the biggest sporting stars, interviewed Piers Morgan, Rod Stewart, Barry Hearn, Eddie Hearn. The list goes on. Interviewed ex-international drug smugglers, interviewed the best business brains there are in the UK, the most amazing entrepreneurs, SAS people who've lost limbs, people who've survived plane crashes, sporting stars. The list goes on. And you know what? Because it's called The Eventful Entrepreneur, my world has obviously been events, and I've lived an eventful life. And so we've gone down the route of interviewing people and chatting to people who've had eventful lives. And I've absolutely loved it. I never thought I would love sitting down with someone for an hour with your headphones on in our studio, which we created in the pandemic, and just had the most amazing chats for 60 plus minutes. And I can't highly recommend enough having their own podcast. And you know what? There's no money in podcasting. I wasn't doing it for the money. It was doing it for something to do. It's now becoming the top 1% podcast globally. And not realizing what I was doing, I was very naive and new to it, but I thought, give it a go. And I'm a curious person, I guess. So curiosity comes out, and people end up talking and speaking. It creates a great episode. So
yeah. No, yeah, brilliant. Who's been the most, just I guess putting you on the spot, who's been the most interesting guest you've had on the show, and why were they interesting? What was the thing that grabbed you?
Harry Redknapp.
Okay.
Harry Redknapp is the most interesting person and got so many amazing stories. Barry Hearn, who owns Matchroom Sports, he's the dad of Eddie Hearn, who looks after Anthony Joshua. He's been run Matchroom Sports for 40 years. The best business mind, best entrepreneur you will ever come across, and he's old school. Keeps it simple, says it how it is, creates great win-win partnerships. And then you've got people like, God, I interviewed one yesterday, Jamie Hull. He was flying a plane in the forces. He was 500 feet in the air, and his plane caught alight, and he was burning alive. And he had to land the plane. And as he was landing the plane, he jumped out the cockpit and landed and survived. 65% burns all over him, but he survived and tells his story. And just these mad, crazy stories of SAS people who've lost 3 limbs, or entrepreneurs who created the most amazing business models and online, and yeah, the list goes on. Or interviewing a billionaire, the Reebok owner, Joe Foster, or the founder of Reebok. Yeah, there's so many. There's so many. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it. But you know what? I cannot speak highly enough of having your own podcast, because what I've learned, again, naivety going in there, is just how much reach you can get, and it's a great marketing tool as well for your other businesses.
Yep. And
it also raises your profile. And I was never into about raising my profile, but since going public for the last 12 months, my profile's raised. I've got an Instagram, and that's raised massively. And I'm fairly big on LinkedIn. So it all kind of works, because you're telling your Bournemouth 7 story as well in there. You're telling your other businesses that you're launching, and you're having really nice conversations with business people, talking about how they create that, how they went from 0 to doing quite well. And I'm here to inspire the next generation, really. Yep. Especially people who are entrepreneurs and going into events. I interview a lot of festival owners and events people, and we don't talk about all the good stuff. We talk about all the gritty stuff that no one ever really speaks about. And that's what I enjoy, because it's honest.
Yep. So Dodge, you come through both the Wasps and Leicester academies in rugby union, with a great mix of student events, and you went to university and all that sort of stuff too. Has that helped in business? And what would you say to anybody in business that haven't had the level of education that you've had?
Well, I wasn't the brightest kid at school as an academic. I was always wanting to play sport and playing sport, and always earning a pound note at school. So my world has been sport and business since a very young age, of the age of 10. I was lucky enough to go to Loughborough Sports University. I didn't do A-levels, so I got in there through my sport, through the rugby. And I guess, going back to your question, what was the benefits? The benefits for me really was, I did a PE sports science degree, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I was playing sport, partying at the age of 18 to 21, and meeting friends for life. And that's the beauty of university, that's what it brings you. But 20 odd years ago, getting a degree was seen as, wow. I was the first one in my family, really, first one to get a degree. And it was like, oh my God, he's got a degree. But it didn't mean anything to me whatsoever. I got a 2-2, blagged my way through it. And it was all about getting that contract to play semi-pro, pro sport. And but the thing that it gave me, I guess, is contacts. There's not a better sport in the world than rugby for contacts. Now, people who play rugby or involved in rugby normally have been fairly successful in life, whether they work in the city, or whether they're in finance, or whether they're a lawyer, or whether they're an entrepreneur, or whatever they've done. It's a very well-connected sport. We talk about sport in the UK. Sport is a very small community. Football is a small community. Rugby is a small community when you're in that business. But for the outside world, it's a huge sport, football, as we know. But there are only a handful, or a few handful of people who are really pulling the strings. It's the same as rugby. Yes, there's no one I don't really know in the world of rugby, or I'm only one phone call away from someone in the world of sport. And I guess when you get to our age, with the amount of experience we've had under our belt and the contacts we've met over the years, it opens lots of doors. So I guess, answering your question there, rugby has opened huge amounts of doors to me, and I can't thank the sport enough.
Yep. Dodge, you talk about employing and working with great people. What makes a great recruit for you? What do you look for?
I keep it simple. I love employing. I love chatting to people. I love finding out who's who. You know, I don't go down that route. You know, I've never had a job in my life, so I don't know the whole CV. I've never written a CV. And when CV come through, I don't read CVs. I like finding people on LinkedIn, finding out about their character, finding out have they got good attention to detail? Are they a people's person? Are they a team player? They got good communication skills. Can they be a leader? Have they got huge potential? You know, I keep it really simple. And one of my strengths, and I only work to my strengths, and there's lots of things that I'm not good at, but one of my strengths is finding good people and building teams. Because being a leader, it's important that I have really good people around me. And it's important for me to empower all our staff and make them feel $1 million. And if they've got those simple skill sets, and, you know, people overlook them. But to me, emotional intelligence is more important than intelligence, you know, and it's about empowering people when they come on board and working with them that they can be the best and letting them know they're doing an amazing job and give them a pat on the back and put an arm around them. And the simple things we learned in sport, you know, I've just transferred that into the business world, I guess. And yeah, mate, that's what I look for.
And do you have any strategies with your current team? You know, do you do, you know, you're in events? Do you do any team building, or do you do any, I don't know, bonusing or structures of any kind to help build that team environment with your existing staff?
Yeah, we have a bit of fun. If there's a fight on, there's a big fight on a Saturday, we'll send a WhatsApp out, say pick a round, pick the winner. There's 100 quid there. We'll all go on, you know, we go to festivals in the summer together. Everyone gets on the piss and has a laugh together and just goes and has fun. There's no real strategy. There's no real formal stuff that we do. We all just get on. We've got a wonderful working environment. I'm now up to 14 full-time staff because we're launching a new business next month, which we've been working on for the past 18 months in the pandemic, which is an online events course where I brought 40 of the world's best experts in to do a guest lecture, all pre-recorded. And I've just seen a huge gap in the market to be if you look back in the late 90s, 2000s, I was the pioneer of student nights going around the UK. And then from 2008 onwards, now as a pioneer of a sport and music festival. And now the next move is wanting to be the pioneer of an online events course that, you know, I identify that there's a massive myth out there that you have to do an events management degree to get into the events world. And that's not true. Degrees these days are £27,000 for 3 years. The average student leaves £50,000 in debt at the age of 21 before they even start their first job. So I've identified that we can create a fast track and a pathway for people to do an online events course that can be done in 3 months at a fraction of the price and a fraction of the time, being taught by the leading experts in our field. And when they come on our course, they'll learn everything they need to know from the best people, which will fast track them and put them on the right path to get into the most exciting industry, I believe, there is in the world, and that's the events industry. Now, the events industry has come together over the past year because it was kind of slotted into the hospitality industry. But the events industry has come together, and people don't realize how many opportunities there are in the events industry. Whether you want to be a tour manager, whether you want to be a project manager, whether you want to be a roadie, whether you want to be in lighting and sound or music or a graphic designer or a video editor or a promoter. There are so many opportunities there, and we're going to bring that to the light. And yeah, it's a really exciting space we're about to enter into, and the brand is called the Event Crowd. So truly inspired to really give my knowledge of everything that I've learned to the next generation coming through.
It's almost like a specialist university in many ways.
Well, that's the ultimate goal, and you've got to remember, when kids finish university, it's like being a professional rugby player. If you broke your leg, bam, your contract's finished, you're out, you're forgotten about. And I talk a lot about this with professional rugby England players on my podcast, and It's the same as university. They want your money. You know, it's backed by the government. It's a business. A university is a business. Each university might be a £200 million business. They want your tuition fees. And when you're finished, the next batch are coming through, you're forgotten about. Yep. What we're doing is that if they do and work with us on our course, when you've finished, you open up to all our contacts. There's no one we don't know in the events industry to make a phone call or pick up the phone or open a door for you. So that's there's a lot of perks with what we're doing compared to the degree. And I've got nothing against universities, by the way, because they're wonderful places to meet people. And if you want to be a vet or a lawyer or something along those lines where it's actually you're dedicated to doing that, I understand. But there's too many courses out there that aren't worth the paper they're written on. Because as an 18-year-old kid, you don't know what you want to do at 18. You don't know what you want to do at 20. You know, you get pushed in from school to say, go to uni, go to uni, go to uni. But you're being pushed into in that route because that's what we've all been taught as 30, 40-year-olds. Go to uni, it's the way forward. But the pandemic has taught us it's not the way forward. And there's lots of online courses out there where you can learn a hell of a lot more in your own home and not have the debt that you're about to get into and have that around your neck for the next 30 years. I've got friends in their 40s still paying their student loan off.
Yep.
200 quid a month.
Some of them probably more to pay than what they started out 20 years ago.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But no one's brought this to light because it's just, that's the thing to do. Go uni.
Won't shock you, Dodge, that I read a document the other day that American student debt is higher than credit card debt.
It's over 100 grand American student debt per person. Wild. Crazy. Wild.
I've been a severe critic of our education system, with the amount of people that have come to me in recent decade or so with no social skills, yep. little or no business thing. But I've been reaching out. You know, maybe it's time that business people like yourself and myself, with the experience in business, offer some of these courses. I reckon that's a brilliant initiative.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you think, you know, the events industry is all about attention to detail. It's about partnerships. It's about people. It's about contacts. It's, you know, it's the simple stuff. And all these skills seem to be forgotten by people employing. You know, there's always saying, oh, you need a first degree or a 2-1. Everyone's got a first or a 2-1 these days.
Yep.
You know, so there's a whole podcast on that.
Yeah, we'd love to do it. There's probably a few subjects that we could get out. Dodge, I had a really interesting session with a guy called Joe Peachy, and Joe was in America, and he was the #1 sales trainer in the world last year, recognised in the industry. Really interesting guy, and he came up with a theory of his non-negotiables. Do you have any non-negotiables in your life or business, or things that you stand by, come hell or high water? You don't change that way of thinking or doing business?
My word.
Okay, that's a soundbite in itself. So
my word.
Yeah,
it's the most powerful thing we own. Your word.
And I think there's a lot of merit to that. There's a lot of business and people and whatnot that, you know, require legal contracts and whatnot. In the old days of your handshake and your word are refreshing to hear.
100%.
Dodge, a lot of people call themselves entrepreneurs or serial entrepreneurs, which gets on my goat sometimes.
Same.
What's the real deal in your opinion?
Well, there's lots of people. You got to remember, when, you know, I've been an entrepreneur since a young boy, the age of 10, living in pubs, living in flats above pubs in London. You learn very quickly people skills, how to buy and sell, how to understand their mannerisms, their movements. And entrepreneurs wasn't a cool word 5 years ago. People still can't spell it. But there are more entrepreneurs now. You've got to think, in the 80s, everyone wanted to be a footballer. In the 2000s, everyone wanted to be a rock star. In 2010s, everyone wanted to be an international DJ. Not everyone, but I'm saying, you know, this was what, you know, they were seen as the. Now, the last 5 years, entrepreneurs are up the top. Every celebrity footballer, every celebrity, every rock star or DJ, they all want to be entrepreneurs. So there's not a better time to be an entrepreneur. There's not a better time to set up your own business that ever, especially after a pandemic, especially after the world's gone tits up in 2008 and all the previous times. There are more entrepreneurs out there than you can shake a stick at the moment. But you can see the real ones. You can see the ones who really want to be. They're normally the ones who tell you they're a serial entrepreneur. But yeah, I wish, you know, it's a ballsy game being an entrepreneur because you are your own boss. I don't know any different, so I've got nothing to compare it to being told what to do. But you know, the hours that I put in are the odd hours. You know, I because I love what I do and I create things in sport and business. It doesn't seem like work to me. It's a hobby. And if you've got a hobby and you do something you enjoy every day, it makes life a lot easier when you get up in the morning and it's peeing with rain outside. You're thinking, what am I going to do? Oh, excellent! I can work on my hobby. Yeah, I guess there's a lot of talent out there. And what I really like about entrepreneurs is the young kids coming through. I love spotting talent. These young 18-year-olds don't realize they're talented. You know, I get people in for chats and interviews. You chat to an 18-year-old or 17 or a 19-year-old or 20. So what are you good at? They're like, I don't really know. Well, do you use Instagram? Yeah. Do you use TikTok? Yeah. Do you use Facebook? Yeah. Are you good at that? Are you on it every day? How many hours a day are you on it? 10 hours. Wow. So you know all the stuff that I don't. You know how to do this on YouTube. Yeah. Do you know how to video edit? Yeah, I do that in my spare time and I'm really good at it. So they've got so much talent. It's about how they can transfer that talent and set up their own businesses. And there's not an easier time in the whole time of history than to set up your own business and go global. You know, we've got this thing in front of us called a computer and we've got Google. We can find anything out we want within 3 minutes of research and homework. But the key to it is when you've got an idea is to do so much homework and research that you know everything about that whole business, your competitors, the pricing, the this. If it ticks 8 out of the 10 boxes, then I would suggest everyone go for it because life's too short to be sat in a job you do not enjoy, that on a Sunday night you're feeling anxiety and stress that you've got to go to work on Monday and you can't wait till Friday comes so you leave in work. I couldn't think of anything worse. And there's enough really good online courses out there for people to look at and do that course while they're in a job they don't enjoy, to then work a game plan out to get out the job they don't enjoy, to then have the freedom. And the freedom is key because the only thing we've got in this world is time and it's ticking. You know, so yeah.
Dodge, it's been my absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. And if I could probably describe it as heartfelt and raw and honest and from, you know, it's some real punchy stuff in there. There's some stuff to take away. Thank you very much for joining us. And I'm sure the people on the show will get some great insights and inspiration from you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure. I really do appreciate it. You're doing great stuff, by the way. Massive respect to you. Anyone wants to get hold of me personally, get me on Instagram, Dodge Woodall, or get me on LinkedIn, Roger Woodall. I answer every question. So thanks, guys.
Thanks for your time.
Take care.